Everyone, my project will be on the Antarctic toothfish and their role in the fishing industry in Antarctica. So to go over the project, I'm first going to give you a little bit of background on overall Antarctic geography, where it is on the map, and how life is on land down south. Then I'm going to look at the Ross Sea, which is the area that these toothfish live in and reside in. Then I'll introduce you to the toothfish themselves, which are one of the world's largest fish living in Antarctica. Their role in the fishing industry, so kind of explaining how they got introduced into the fishing industry and what's going on with that. And then lastly, how we can all use an ethics approach to better understand, help, and protect the Antarctic toothfish. So first, a little bit about Antarctica itself. Antarctica is our most southern continent, and it is the coldest, driest, and windiest of all of our continents. Because of the lack of rainfall, it is also our world's largest desert, since deserts are only measured on basis of rain and not temperature. And Antarctica was first explored in the early 1900s from the British Antarctic Survey, and then since then, we have done a lot as multi-nations to really understand and protect Antarctic ecosystems. Now, the Antarctic Treaty, built in 1956, helped make sure that no country or civilization would inhabit Antarctica. This means that Antarctica can never be used for any military use. It's never going to be owned by any specific land or region, and that the basis of the land of Antarctica is to make sure that we can protect and understand it for the ecosystems and animals that surround it. However, the Antarctic Treaty only protected the land. So all the neighboring waters around Antarctica are not protected. One of the biggest and most vital breeding grounds for many seabirds, animals, krill, almost every organism that inhabits Antarctica is the Ross Sea. The Ross Sea is in the bottom half of Antarctica, and because the treaty never protected this area, the Ross Sea was very vulnerable. The last 10 to 15 years was used by scientists to create the world's largest MPA, or Marine Protected Area. This area would be a defined region for the long-term conservation of marine resources, specifically of the animals, so that way we can help promote Antarctic's ecosystem. And this was only just now established in 2016. Part of the animals that live in the Ross Sea are these three species. We have the Adelie penguin, which is about a third of the penguins that live in the Ross Sea are Adelies, along with many other migratory birds. We have a very specific Ross Sea orca whale that lives there, as well as the South Pacific weddell seal that lives in the Ross Sea year-round. Here's a more basic overview of the entire food web and food chain that reside in the Ross Sea. We can see some of those penguins and whales and the charismatic animals up front, but underneath the ground, where the water can get very cold and very deep, are some of the most interesting organisms we've seen. Specifically, the ugly one on the right, which is the toothfish. This is a very dominant fish that can grow up to 2 meters in length and be over 150 kilograms. They are vital in the ecosystem as they're kind of in the middle, so they feed on some of the smaller fish and squid, but they're very important for those seals and orcas that will eat it higher up in the food chain. They're really unique organisms because they live for over 50 plus years, they grow pretty slowly, and they have so many different conditions that allow them to live in this harsh ecosystem. They have antifreeze in their blood, and instead of using a swim bladder for buoyancy, they actually use different concentrations of lipids and fats, which allow them to stay buoyant in the water. Unfortunately, this lipids and fats are what make the Antarctic toothfish so tasty. So there's been some marketing ploys where, unfortunately, in the late 1900s, New Zealand started commercial fishing in Antarctica. You can see it's the closest to the Ross Sea area. And instead of selling it as Antarctic toothfish, they're selling it as Chilean sea bass, which is completely inaccurate, as the toothfish is neither from Chile or a bass. But here's a quick video of what's going on down south with the toothfish industry. Now you can see here that there's a lot of fishermen. They're fishing in these harsh, horrible conditions, and they're bringing in tons and tons of fish and brutally just taking them away from their ecosystem. And you'll see the hundreds and tons of fish. This is really sad, as we harp on New Zealand, but honestly, so many countries are doing it. China's the #1, but the United States has it too. We see this in many fancy restaurants and even our local Trader Joe's. And overall, this is really important because even though the MPA, Marine Protected Area of this region, has been established, we still need help. The Marine Protected Area is only established for the next 35 years. So we really, as scientists and researchers entering the field or any polar region field, need to use a deep ecology approach to understand how we can continue to create policy and better expand scientific research to protect the Antarctic toothfish. We can see this as deep ecologists often use land pyramids to understand different food webs, which is very important as their role is huge in the Antarctic food web. And overall, using a deep ecology approach will help with the integrity, stability, and beauty of the Antarctic region. And these are my works cited.